Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Azamuddin Shahmi bin Hassan and I will present the introduction for our topic of credit crunch. So, what is exactly the credit crunch? This term is used to explain the phenomena where a certain country has a decreasing rate of lending by their financial institutions such as banks to the customers. This is due to the lack of funds for banks or the financial institutions that is caused by bad debts, which is the unrecovered loans. The non-performing loans and rising risk of default lead to losses incurred by banks as they started to decrease their lending activities to cover their loss. And for our project, we choose the topic of credit crunch in Thailand and South Korea that happened during the Asian financial crisis in 1997 until 1998. As for the similarities of credit crunch happened in Thailand and South Korea, the first similarity is that the main cause for this problem in both countries was the Asian financial crisis that started in 1997, which caused the currency devaluation in many Asian countries, and Thailand and also South Korea is also involved. As the monetary power dropped for both the banks, the financial institutions, and also the people of the countries, bad debts happen around the countries, and this led to the occurrence of credit crunch. Other than that, both of the credit crunch happened in Thailand and also South Korea, prolonged for about 3 years period of time from 1997 until 1999. And the ending of credit crunch in both countries are at the same time as the Asian financial crisis ended in 1999. And for the third similarity is the parties affected by credit crunch in Thailand and also South Korea. The people and the business or companies in the countries are facing shortage of funds due to banks closing their doors to loan approvals. And this leads to problems such as people losing their purchasing power in the market, and also business cannot expand their operations. The economic growth of both countries was slowed down, affected bad by the credit crunch during the period of credit crunch due to these effects of credit crunch to the people and also the business operating in the countries. And finally, the aftermath of credit crunch in Thailand and South Korea is also the same. Prolonged recession happened as both countries are slowly recovering from the crisis. And changes of policy and also bank lending behaviors can be seen in both Thailand and South Korea as banks in the countries started to have strict lending policy and apply selective lending, only to prevent the same situation from happening again in the near future.
The first difference between Korea and Thailand is the extent of credit crunch, where Thailand started on the third quarters of the 1997s, meanwhile Korean start on the December's, which is last quarter's 1997s. As you can see at the figures here, the Korean credit demand increased on December 1997. Meanwhile, the credit demand in Thailand increased on September 1997. This is how the difference between both of countries. Extent of credit crunch is based on the credit demand and supply, where during this period, credit demand is rising while supply fell substantially. You can see at the figure here. For the second difference is spread between lending rate and risk-free asset yields. So the credit crunch in Korea has been proof that there was by spread between lending and risk-free assets yields, whereby the risk-free asset yields is from corporate and government loan. So it shows clearly the spread between lending rate and the yield of corporate bond is increasing. However, in Thailand, there is no government security big issue, so the relevant risk-free yields taken from bond issue by state firm. As you can see the figure above, the spread between lending rate and also the yield of state enterprise bond is also increasing. The difference is Korean using corporate bond, meanwhile Thailand using state enterprise bond. The last of difference is flight to quality in bank lending and depositor. So for Korea, there is evidence that flight to quality in bank lending, also in the depositors. You can see the government security as a percentage of total asset is for flight to the quality of bank lending, where the share of government security in total asset increased for all banks except local bank. It explained that it's a sign that bank willingness to lend decreasing as they invest a greater proportion to their asset in risk-free government securities. It's also said that there is a flight to quality by depositors in Korean by looking at the growth rate of loan. Based on this, you can see that the rate of the nationwide bank is higher than the local bank. For in Thailand, there is only evidence on the flight to quality by depositors. There's no evidence flight to quality bank lending happen in the Thailand. You can see this on the figures on deposit market share by the type of bank. Yes, the higher value here is the local Thai, with the local largest Thai than the smaller Thai. That's all from me. Thank you.
Moving on to the solution, the credit crunch crisis in Korea was related to liquidity crisis, resulted from mismatch in maturity, currency, and also capital structure in the balance sheets of the financial and non-financial firms of the country. In order to solve the issue, Korea made an agreement with IMF for bailout credit. Therefore, in 3rd December 1997, IMF and other international financial institutions offered the amount of 58.4 billion of US dollar to bail out Korea. Out of the total, $23.4 billion were kept as defense fund by the G7 countries that will be available to Korea if the initial amount is inadequate. Need to remember that G7 is an informal grouping of 7 of the world's advanced economy, which is whereby the countries are Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, United States, and also the European Union. So the other fund of 35 billion was spread until the year of 2000, which helps Korea to make structural reforms and tighten its monetary and also fiscal policies. Despite that, foreign financial institutions judge that the fund is inadequate to fund the Korean short-term debt. The action of memorandum by Bank of Korea in 18 December concerning the expected inflows of foreign funds and also the foreign reserve balance on 31st December would be between negative 600 million to 900 million of US dollar. Therefore, the result makes foreign credits withdraw their fund from Korea in less than 2 weeks after the first agreement with IMF being made. This pushed Korea into sovereign debt crisis. Luckily, Korea managed to avoid the worst situation by asking help from United States. So on 19 December, IMF opened new negotiation with Korea government whereby they offer extended fund of bailout money and exercise its power on the financial institution of G7 countries to roll over the short-term credits to Korea for a month. In return, US government gave promise to IMF to acquire an agreement in restructuring Korea's outstanding short-term debts. In a nutshell, Korea has recovered and the policies adopted under IMF program has helped to restore the country's external stability, rebuild reserves, and restructure financial and corporate sectors. The country has stopped receive fund from IMF and it managed to repay their debts 9 months ahead from the schedule. As for solution for credit crunch in Thailand, Financial Institution Development Fund to control of the recapitalization in Thailand. So the fund is established in 1985 to offer financial assistance to problematic banks. The initial fund of 500 billion Thailand baht was provided by the Bank of Thailand. There are four major components that were announced to help the recapitalization in private banks. Along with the recapitalization program, Thai government also established the Corporate Debt Restructuring Advisory Committee to develop the corporate restructuring framework. This committee allows debtors and creditors to negotiate the debt under market-oriented approach. The approach involves 19 principles concerning expectation of debtors and creditors, the authorities in the voluntarity, and also the art of court process. Based on the solution that has been mentioned previously, it can be seen that Korea has better solution compared to Thailand in mitigating the credit crunch crisis. This is proven as Korea managed to quickly restore their stability of financial system through the liquidity support and closures of non-viable institutions. The restructuring strategy of Korea also managed to resolve non-performing loan issue, recapitalizing bank, and enhance strength of institutional framework practice. In addition, Korea managed to repay their fund borrowed from IMF 9 months earlier than the due and successfully rebuild their reserve and external stability.
Malaysia facing credit crunch during a since financial crisis, same as Thailand and South Korea. So in Malaysia, they also show the strong rising in the spread between lending rate and risk-free asset yield. So the solution taken by the Malaysia during that time is, since credit crunch has an impact to monetary and fiscal policy, the NERP being made, which make the Bank Negara Malaysia reducing the intervention rate and also statutory reserve ratio to easier the borrower to obtain the fund at reasonable rates. So for fiscal policy, a stimulus package that worth almost 7 billion ringgit Malaysia being introduced by the government, as well as expanded existing specialized fund to make sure the priority sector can access to credit at sensible cost. So at the conclusion, we can see that Koreans have a better strategy solutions when there is a short recovery there. However, Malaysia has a slower recovery compared to Korea since Malaysia refused to accept IMF assistance. Other than that, Malaysian governments also giving late response during the initials of the crisis. Malaysia taking time during on crisis by not taking a comprehensive measures until national economic recovery plan come up. This is the reasons of late recovery Malaysia compared to Korea.